Bowers& Wilkins keeps making their entry-level 600 series better with each iteration, and I was pretty excited to get a chance to take home a pair of the 606 S3 stand mount speakers to listen at home. After a couple weeks, I can say I'm definitely impressed with the clarity and detail these speakers deliver. Let's dive in and see what makes them special. The 606 S3s feature a 6.5-inch composite driver borrowed from the Bowers& Wilkins 800 series, which they call the Continuum Cone. The S3 version uses an upgraded motor assembly that improves the performance of the drive unit, which allows the speaker to start and stop with even greater precision. And this helps the speakers deliver more detail, especially when dynamic range is all over the place in music or movies. And speaking of detail, the S3s have a new titanium dome tweeter, an upgrade over the S2's aluminum dome. It's a decoupled design isolated from the cabinet to avoid any vibration that could color the sound. You may have seen Bowers& Wilkins higher-end speakers that have the tweeter on top of the cabinet, and the idea is the same here. Keep vibrations away from the tweeter so it can do its job unfettered. The crossover has also gotten an update and uses higher quality parts than before to make the woofer and tweeter blend smoothly. On the back, you'll see upgraded speaker terminals derived from B&W's 700 series. These new terminals use an improved layout and provide a cleaner signal path internally between your amp and the speakers. There are two sets of terminal posts, which gives you the option to bi-amp or bi-wire them. The rear port helps these speakers pump out deeper bass, and they use B&W's flow port design. The dimples and the flared opening are there to tame the turbulence from the air being pumped out the back when the woofer moves. That turbulence is often referred to as chuffing, thanks to the sound it makes. It can be distracting, but you won't hear any coming out of these ports. Because that port is in the rear, the 606 S3 need to be pulled away from the walls a bit. I ended up with them about 18 inches away from the back wall in my room. And B&W gives you a pair of foam port plugs to help with tuning if you need them. But most speakers sound better away from the walls anyway, even if they have a front port, because the space between helps create an auditory impression of depth in your soundstage, more of a 3D stereo mix. Bowers & Wilkins FS600 S3 stands are a perfect match for the 606 S3, placing those new titanium tweeters at the perfect height. The stands are robust to damp vibrations, and you can fill them with sand for even more damping ability. The top plate has mounting holes that line up perfectly with the ones on the bottom of the 606 S3 to keep them securely in place. At home, I hooked up the 606 S3s in my main listening setup. The first track I put on was Man Next Door by Massive Attack. It's got some deep bass, but there's layers to it. It can sound almost like distant thunder in smaller speakers, but the 606 S3 passed that test for me, delivering clearly fine bass on a challenging track. Crooked Stills Shaken by a Low Sound was next. It's a well-recorded album, kind of a bluegrass Americana vibe, and it has two things I gravitate toward: beautiful female vocals and cellos. The tracks Come On in My Kitchen and New Railroad gave me all the gritty cello I was hoping for, so I could hear the bow being dragged across the strings with different pressure and speed. That detail turned out to be the tip of the iceberg. Banjos and mandolins really popped. Singer Aoife O'Donovan's voice had a bit of airiness to it, a breathy quality I don't remember hearing before. My impression of the detail I was hearing was that it all adds up to reveal the human element behind the recording, a reminder that it's real people playing. Next, I fired up the album Renegades by Rage Against the Machine. The title track is a cover of a song by Africa Bambaataa done in Rage's signature style. I was struck by how well I could hear the growl of Tim Comerford's bass cut through the mix, so I started on a listening tour of Rage and Audioslave albums to hear more of it. Audioslave's number 10 from their album Out of Exile is a favorite of mine. Comerford and drummer Brad Wilk form a tight, almost menacing rhythm section while Tom Morello does his thing on guitar. I could hear that growl on the bass and all the little things Morello does with overdubbed guitar flourishes coming at you from different places in the mix. It was the vocals that impressed me the most, however. The song is quiet at first, with Chris Cornell singing more in the baritone register. But the song builds to a fury, with Cornell working himself into one of his classic screams that could peel the paint from the walls. But even with the wall of sound and Cornell really sending it, the music was well-defined and never harsh. I'd say that my two main takeaways from listening to music on the 606 S3s are that they give you outstanding detail, but also fairly satisfying bass, even though the speakers are not all that big. If you're building a 2-channel system in a small to medium room, these are an excellent choice. And it's not just these speakers in the Bowers & Wilkins 600 series, there's 2 other models. The smaller 607 S3 bookshelf speakers, which use a 5-inch woofer versus a 6-inch woofer in the 606 S3, and the 603 S3 floor standers, which use the same 6-inch continuum cone mid-bass as the 606, plus a pair of 6.5-inch woofers to help them dig really deep. After hearing the 606 S3 at home, I find myself thinking that an entire home theater made up of the 600 series would be a pretty amazing thing. And best of all, you don't just have to take my word for it. Look through our customer reviews. You'll see raves from happy Crutchfield customers, many of whom note the nuance and clarity that they're hearing. And we've got this awesome tool on our site called SpeakerCompare. That lets you do a virtual audition of speakers you've picked out using wired headphones at home, so you can hear the tonal differences between speakers before buying. We measure the acoustic properties of speakers in a special soundproof chamber, and then you can hear them online and compare them to other models. If you have any questions, just get in touch with us at Crutchfield, and thanks for watching.